Hello and welcome to the PINCast, the podcast presented by myself, Richard Bowser, editor and founder of Property Investor News, the monthly magazine which we launched 20 years ago back in 2002. If you want to listen to factual, no-nonsense interviews, insight and opinion from some highly experienced and respected property professionals, then this is the podcast that you really need to tune into on a regular basis. The latest PINcast from Property Investor News features Hertfordshire-based developer Kevin Edge, where we met up with Kevin to interview and talk with him for Property Investor News about his current projects, where he is building a total of 24 houses in Essex and Hertfordshire. Hello there, it's Richard Bowser here from Property Investor News, and today I am in Essex and I've come across Kevin Edge from the Mosaic Group. Now, longer term listeners and viewers of Property Investor News will be aware that Kevin was an award winner some 8 years ago, and he won Property Deal of the Year at the Property Investors Awards. And at that time we featured Kevin in, I think, the autumn edition of Property Investor News at a project that he was doing in St Albans. Now that's 8 years ago. Today I'm at Stapleford Abbots in Essex with Kevin, and lovely to see you, Kevin.
Yeah, likewise. It makes me feel old. 8 or 9 years, it's gone quite quickly.
It certainly does. Time flies by. Obviously, we were at that scheme in St Albans. Tell viewers and listeners of Property Investor News about that scheme that you won the award for back in 2016.
Yeah, sure. So that was a gymnasium. It was never actually used as a gymnasium. So it was a housing development site by a national house builder.
Yep.
And they were building, I think it was like 300 flats on the site.
Yes.
Part of the Section 106 for the project was to provide a gymnasium and a doctor's surgery. So Most people know Section 106 is provision you have to make for the community, you can see it as. So they had planning permission for a doctor's surgery and for a gymnasium. They built the gymnasium right at the beginning of the job, and then they used it as a site office all the way through. And then when it got to the end of the project, they said to the local authority, perhaps we won't use it as a gymnasium now, there won't be any use for that, we're going to sell the building on.
Right.
So we purchased a building from the house builder, and we turned it into 4 flats, and then we turned them 4 flats into sort of mini HMOs.
Right, yeah. It was a 2-storey building, as I remember.
2-storey building, yeah.
So in that block, which was, as you say, a purpose-built building, you created 4 flats.
Yeah.
2 on each floor, from memory.
2 on each floor, yeah.
Yeah.
They were they were 2-bedroom flats, but we turned the lounge into the 3rd bedroom, so they were 3-bed HMOs.
Right.
But they still had like a kitchen, living space as well.
Yeah. And that was really close to, if I'm not mistaken, St Albans train station, wasn't it?
Yeah, very close to the train station, very close to the train line, so we had to be careful with like sound insulation on the side walls. But there was only small windows overlooking the train line. The windows looked the other way. But very convenient for the town, very convenient for travel into London, because St Albans is only like 20 minutes from the centre of town.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great location in terms of commute time, which is why house prices in that location are pretty high, even by South East standards, aren't they?
Yeah, and it was a very good development. One of the reasons it worked really well for us is that because it was a modern building, it'd been really well built. It was built to modern building regulations.
Yes.
Also had really high ceilings, which made it really easy to convert. And I think I said at the time, like, it's really good to look at the existing structure of the building and how you're going to convert it. So for us, that was a really easy one to convert. So it didn't cost a lot. It was really quick to do. So it was very profitable.
Yes.
The same shape building could be more complicated if it wasn't meeting current building regulations. So it's important to analyse the project you're going into. So that one worked well because of the type of building.
Yeah. And your career up until that point, you've been a house builder in the local area, hadn't you? For many years before?
Yeah, local builder, doing extensions and renovations and building some like individual homes and like small developments, 2, 4 houses at a time.
Right. Well, we'll talk more about what you've been doing later on during this discussion. But Just going back to the St Albans, so basically project, so 4 flats, mini Mos, I think we referred to them as, so 3 occupants in each flat.
Yeah.
So 4 individual small HMOs.
Yeah.
And obviously they were then rented out to young professionals, I assume?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. So what's been the story since then on that project, Kevin?
We still own it,
Okay.
And it still rents out. It's interesting that the dynamics have changed slightly in the last year or two because energy prices have gone up significantly.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference to how the HMO works. So one of the things we've been looking at actually over the last few months is it's actually got a flat roof. So we're looking to put solar on the roof.
Right.
So when we first did it, it wasn't such a... it wouldn't work quite so well, but now energy prices have gone up so much. Solar has actually come down a lot.
Yes.
Actually, that now becomes quite viable. So the energy bills in there have gone up quite considerably, like probably 300%, which does make a big difference for an it's an electric heated building.
Right.
So if we turn that into solar, it makes it a much more viable project. So that's currently what we're looking at, but we still own it, and it's still a good investment. Yeah,
and in that 8-year period, have you been hands-on with the management, or is that delegated out?
It's all delegated out.
Right.
Yeah. So we run it. I have like a VA in the Philippines. She runs it all, and then we have someone who's locally based, just does the viewings for us.
Oh, okay.
And then we just have a cleaning company and a maintenance company, but it's all run basically from the Philippines.
Right. So you've got 12 customer tenants in the building. And it's systemised. With the building itself, any particular issues from the maintenance point of view? Is it all run pretty?
It's been really good because it's a modern building.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying, because it was so well built from the beginning. We've had no issues whatsoever.
Wow. So that's basically a real success story.
Yeah, very much so.
So it's a success story in its creation, which is why you won Property Deal of the Year in 2016. But in that 8-year intervening period, by the sounds of it, I think things have gone pretty much according to plan.
Gone according to plan, apart from Liz Truss, of course, and the interest rates going up, and the energy bills going up.
Yes.
So the income that we get has been compressed, but we're still making a good income out of it, and we can manage that going forward.
Yes.
Interest rates will start to come down, which will be good, and then the energy bills, we can start to produce our own energy, which now becomes a viable option. Yeah.
So by the sounds of it, you operate on a bills inclusive basis, do you?
Yeah.
What's just, before we move on to talk about what you've been doing since then, how have you seen the market from the point of view of your customer tenants? Are they staying longer, or and with COVID, how much of an impact?
COVID wasn't too much of an impact. I mean, people were obviously, like all of us, were just contained in their flats. So people weren't moving. I think people are staying longer because it's just so expensive for people to rent. So moving around is difficult. And once they find somewhere which is reasonable, they tend to want to stay there.
Right. So you've got less voids and longer tenancy periods.
Yeah, we have good tenancy periods with our tenants, and I mean, we're quite lucky. I think I was talking to someone yesterday, actually, one of the people who help manage it, is that in St Albans, because it's quite a prosperous area.
Yes.
So we tend to get good tenant type there.
Yes.
And people, they're more professional. They want to find somewhere they want to live. They want to stay there. They want to keep a good record themselves. They want to live in a good place. So we end up with tenants who stay for a long time and good tenants.
Okay, that's good to hear. So, Kevin, obviously, great to hear about the St Albans project, but clearly we are in a very different location today. Here we are in Stapleford Abbots at a scheme that you're in the process of completing, and you described earlier that you had been a builder in the local area in Hertfordshire for many years, doing mainly single properties, but now in the last 8 years, from what you mentioned earlier, you've scaled up your business in terms of development, yes?
Yes, yeah, we've scaled up significantly. So we were doing individual properties, so renovations, so large renovations and extensions around the St Albans, Harpenden area.
Yeah.
But building single homes, building like double homes. We were doing a development with 4 homes, so smaller developments. But now we're scaled up to the generally doing sort of 9 house sites, between sort of 6 and 9 houses at a time.
Yes.
So it's scaled up quite significantly, and that comes with its own challenges.
Yeah, yeah. So where we are today, we're on in a green beltish area.
Yeah.
Very close to the M25, but it's sufficiently far away that there's absolutely no noise disturbance on this.
That's right.
On this site, and
Yeah.
people watching the magazine article in Property Investor News, it'll be upcoming in a month or so. We'll be able to see images that with the photographs. To illustrate what a lovely location the inhabitants of these properties will have. Lovely views over farmland.
Yeah.
Clearly, is this typical of the projects that you've been doing in the last 7 or 8 years?
Yeah, typical kind of size. So 9 houses is just under the affordable housing threshold.
Yeah.
Generally in the what has commonly now been known as the grey belt.
Yes.
So previously developed land in the green belt area.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes people have the view that if you're building the green belt that you're building on green fields, and that's definitely not the case. This particular site was covered in storage units and heavily contaminated with oil and asbestos, and had old cars and engines just that have been dumped there for years. And now it's been transformed into a beautiful location for 9 families to live in. And we call it Woodside View because it was Woodside Farm, but it's got beautiful views around here. We were having a walk around outside before, and you've got lovely views over the countryside.
Yes.
There's the particular attraction to me is there's a lovely little kind of hobby airfield just half a mile away.
Yes.
So not noisy at all because it's just for hobbyists, but it's just lovely to see the planes flying overhead. Yeah, it's just it's a really nice attraction here.
Okay. And from memory, when we were talking earlier, I think you said sort of price. These are 4-bedroom houses. They're all 4-bedroom houses. So we've got 9 4-bedroom houses on this site, and obviously, from what you mentioned, different price points relative to obviously to the situation and the views, etc., and the size of the plot. I'm assuming to some degree.
Yeah, exactly. So the house that we're sitting in, the show home, is this is plot number 9 and number 8. They're the biggest houses.
Yes.
And they're on the market around sort of 950. And then as we go round the site, the houses get slightly smaller. So these ones have got garages on the side, big extensions on the back. So they're large houses. As we go around, they get a bit smaller, and they sort of go down to about 750.
Yeah. Okay. So who when you were looking at this scheme, I mean, who's your target customer? Families,
sort of, they're 2 to 3 children families. So then they've got sufficient rooms to either have a child in every room and a guest room, because they end up with a guest suite. So yeah, local families really.
And has that been literally the view that you've taken on each of the project, or most of the projects you've taken on in the last 7 or 8 years?
Yeah, for sure.
That particular target market?
Yeah, definitely, because that's the biggest need. So to serve the biggest need, obviously we get the widest market.
Yes.
So there's a real shortage of sort of standard 3 to 4 bedroom homes in the market. I mean, there's lots of flats about, or there's still lots of flats about because they can't sell them now. But there's always a need for these kind of houses. We're generally probably second house up on your chain. So you've done your starter home, you've maybe got one in between, but now this is your longer term family home.
So in terms of the individuals owning this type of property, 2-3 children, probably into their 40s, maybe mid 40s to maybe mid 50s perhaps, depending on the age of the children. Yeah,
exactly. And some of the smaller homes is actually people downsizing as well. Right. So then it's a smaller home, it's more achievable, or more easier for them to look after, but also we find that they want rooms for grandchildren to stay in as well.
Yeah. So
but I think also they want to be able to lock the door from the grandchildren sometimes too.
yes,
Yeah.
quite. So Kevin, great to hear that. Obviously, this is obviously well and truly underway. This particular project, all the buildings, shells, etc. All being done. You've got landscaping to do. So the creation of this project. Just tell me a little bit about how you came about this site and the discussion, negotiation with the owner and what it was previously, and how that unfolded in terms of planning.
Yeah, sure. So on this particular one, I've worked with some partners. So we've JV'd on this together with AJ and Andrew Davison from Fountain Hill. So we've JV'd on this. We found this on the market, actually.
Okay.
So often we find stuff off the market. This was on the market, but other developers hadn't seen the opportunity. So we still tied it down on an option, even though it was on the market to be sold.
Okay.
But it was a bungalow with a large amount of land. I think it's about an acre and a half, let's say.
Right.
Half of that was a big green field, and half of it was a junkyard.
Yes,
essentially.
As you said.
So it had storage units on, so rather large storage units, and I'll provide you with some pictures.
Yes.
So rather large storage units, and also lots of old kind of caravan. There was like an old caravan and like an aviary, and loads of old trucks and broken engines, and just littered.
Yes.
And it had been used like that for 20, 30 years.
Yes.
So at some point it probably had value, but things change economically over time, and it was just running down.
Yeah.
So we tied it up on an option, as I said, and then we got permitted development to extend the commercial area. So we increased the commercial volume, and then we applied to swap that volume from commercial to residential.
Right.
And that's how we was able to achieve the 9 houses.
Right. So So this was a concept I think we covered in a previous interview video with Paul Higgs, who you know well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the planning, so permitted development, were there any additional planning related issues that you had?
Yeah. So we did the volume swap out on the permitted development, and then we increased the further the space by going into the loft and converting the loft, because we got permission to do that, and then also we put extensions on the back of the houses as well.
Right.
So sometimes the planners will try and stop you having any further permitted development rights, but you can challenge that. So they did do that on the first planning permission we got, but we challenged that, and we was then able to extend even further.
Okay, so it was a process that you went. Was that deliberate, knowing that you were going to have?
Yeah, we knew there was going to be challenges. You don't always know that you're going to be able to push as far as you can.
Yeah.
But you keep pushing to see how far you can go.
To see,
Yeah.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
Right. So so planning wise, not too difficult in terms of the time frame that you expected to achieve what you wanted to, or did COVID interrupt it in any way, or was that all moved on?
No, we was after COVID.
Yeah.
I think the way COVID has affected things is that during COVID, a lot of the planners, like everyone else, started working from home, and from what I understand, a lot of them haven't come back to the office.
Yes, I've heard this.
Yeah, so it seems to potentially make sense for the local authority not to have so much office space, but it hugely affects, in my opinion, the performance of the planning authority. So we're trying to contact them, and we can never get hold of anyone, and that's on across the board on planning authorities that we work with. And that makes things happen a lot slower. When people are in a room together, they can then talk to each other, and things can be a little bit more, they can just flow a lot better.
Yes.
But when you've got to book a time in on a Zoom call to talk to your peer, then things just take so much longer. So I think the challenge has been not so much during COVID, but since COVID, the performance of the planning authority, with respect, has significantly gone down. And they're under-resourced, overworked. We hear that all the time.
Yes.
But I think that's also not being helped by the fact that they're also spread out so far.
So the impact of COVID on working practices and the whole hybrid working from home has certainly impacted on planning and the length of time it's taking decisions to be made.
Yeah, that's definitely been the experience.
Right, okay, Kevin, that's great. So in terms of the construction side, the creation of these 9 4-bedroom homes, any particular challenges that you've had to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to say none, but indeed there have been. So this particular site, we had a little tour earlier.
Yes.
And we see there's a water course that runs all the way around the outside. So the water course had been filled in with just rubbish over years. So we had to meet with the local environment, with the Environment Agency from the local authority, and talk about how we were going to bring the watercourse back to life. Mm-hmm. So the watercourse, for anyone that doesn't know, it's like a big ditch which runs around the outside of our site. Mm-hmm. And you often see them on the outside of fields. So there's fields all around here, and the fields drain into the watercourse, mm-hmm. and then takes the surface water away. So we've had to recreate the watercourse. Then we have to, when you create a new development, so the way it's considered now is that we'll all be aware of flooding in our local communities. So we have to consider, if we're going to cover some green field, what's going to happen to the water? Well, once we cover it, then the water is obviously wants to disperse quicker. It can't be held on the soil. So we have to then have what we call attenuation. So how do we stop that from running away so quickly? So we looked again earlier at the big attenuation pond. We call it a swale. So it's a huge pond at the end of the development where all of our surface water goes in, and then at the end of there it has like a big soakaway, or a big manhole, which acts as like a valve. It then allows the water to run away at a certain speed. So the water can run away at a certain speed, and it can build up behind there till it stops raining, and then it will just continue in running at a slower speed. And that stops it. So it stops it from going all really quickly into the local area and causing flooding. So it's a really good thing, but it's relatively new in my experience in the last sort of, I would say 10 to 15 years, that this has become such a big thing because of climate change. So really important. Also, this site was, as we said earlier, it was heavily contaminated.
Yes. So
historically, asbestos wasn't understood to be such a bad thing. Just used to get dumped on yards. The small fibres get into the soil. So whenever we start a new development, you have to get a geotechnical survey, check for any contaminants. So there was definitely asbestos here. There was oil in the ground. I think there may even have been some kind of arsenic or something like that, depending on what the history of the site was. So based on that contamination survey, we've had to do quite a lot of remediation to bring it back to fit for purpose for people to live in. So we've had to remediate quite a lot of the soil as well. Had to have quite deep piles here because it's like London clay around here, and clay soil, you have to get down really deep to get down to something really solid. So
it's fixed and
big long piles that go down. I think they were about 15 meters down or something. Right. Okay. And then we build like a ground beam which sits on top of these. So you've got the post going down, and then a ground beam which is going all around the outside. All of the work on development is all in the ground. Now you hear this from everyone all the time, and when you're in building it, I can tell you it is absolutely true. So anything above ground is really easy. You can take this house that we're sitting in now, you could almost put a hook on the top, lift the house up and put it anywhere, it'd be exactly the same. The ground conditions, that's where all the work is. Right. So, and that's been the experience over the last sort of 10 years of developing. That's where you have to really work and earn your money. I mean, the other thing we looked at as well was when you start a new development, and I found this so many times, when you look at a site, you don't realise the level, even with experience, you don't realise the levels that you're working with until you're working with them, really. So we do a topographical survey at the beginning. So a topographical survey just says exactly what the levels of the land are, and then we plot our houses based on that level. But then when you get to site, you have to, you've got a plan that you're working with, but you really want to learn to work with the contours of the land as well. Yes. So where the swale is, which is, where the ditch goes around the outside, the drainage ditch around the end of around the outside of the site, we've got houses which are reasonably close to that. So we're having to build a big reinforced walls which kind of retain all the soil back. And it's really difficult to understand the most effective way to build them until you're really on site. So now we're on site, we're building these walls and we're making the gardens work towards these walls as well. But we had a look and they're really complicated reinforced concrete structures going around the outside of the building. That's a huge part of this development as well. We don't always have that, but on a couple of developments we've had that, and you really need to, it's a large, it's a very technical piece of engineering. Yeah.
Were you aware that the topography, that you were going to have those challenges that needed to be?
We were definitely aware of it. We'd done our research, so we knew this was coming. We knew we had a wall going around there. We knew it was going to be of a certain height. We knew it had to go to a certain length. But until you're really there and you're playing with the land and you're kind of moving it around, it's difficult to know exactly how far. So we've kind of, we call it humid it. We've humid it a little bit. So we've worked with the soil, we've worked with the contours. We knew we had to do something there, and now we're just kind of doing the finishing touches.
Right. And specialist input into that?
Yeah, certainly. So structure engineer's got to design all of the walls. So he's designed it on pads around the outside, and then sort of specialist concrete workers come in to do all the steel work and pour all the concrete slabs there. But we didn't know exactly what kind of wall we was going to do until we get there, and then we understand, right, this is what we're trying to achieve. Then the engineer designs it all for us.
So as I've mentioned already, and clearly as people will be able to see from the imagery within the print magazine article, this is a site which is well and truly underway with the houses completed, and so in broad numbers terms, where are you with this one? Is it financially on track in terms of what you'd hope to achieve?
Yeah, we're going to be. I've shared the numbers with you, so I get them super accurate, because there's a lot going on, so it's difficult to keep. But we're going to hit our profit targets.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good. And on that point, obviously, the last sort of 3 or 4 years, obviously, with COVID, and then the energy, which you've touched on, energy price increases, and the ongoing aftermath of Brexit in terms of labour. I'm assuming labour and materials price increases impacted.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I think they've definitely gone up. We're able to control it as well as anyone, so as well as we possibly can.
Yes.
But if the price of plasterboard goes up, it goes up. You just shop as well as you possibly can, and we get the best deals possible. We also we have good relationships with our trade partners, so we make a real effort to be good people to work with. So we work with some really good trade partners, and then they look after us as well. So whereas they may try and get a bit more elsewhere if they can, I think they give us good value. And that's been the experience, because we always try and pay people on time. I mean, really important to me. Treat them with respect, and then and we call them trade partners rather than subcontractors, because we're in it together. And you treat people with respect, and they find solutions with you too. So definitely prices have gone up, but we're controlling it as tight as we possibly can. And you have to work hard, but there's definitely opportunities to do that. I think we'll meet our profit targets, but the market is definitely tough to sell houses right now. That's across the board.
Yes.
I think that's just starting to turn, and hopefully my optimism will be borne out in reality. I think it's just starting to turn, because the interest rates have just recently gone down.
They have,
only 0.25%, but it's a marker. They're not likely, hopefully, to go back up. So it looks like they're going to start to come. They're on the slide. We're not going to go back down to 0.5% again, but they're heading back to a normality. In 2008, before the crash, I think they were about 5% then.
Yeah.
So we're only going back to a time where the market was flying as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's in terms of how we view things going forward, which wasn't your question,
No.
but if you were to ask it,
Yeah.
I think the market's about to go on a bit of a rise.
Yeah.
Because it's been definitely constrained, and we've felt that, but it feels like the brakes are about to come off a little bit.
No, I agree with you. I had a very detailed discussion yesterday with a finance specialist about the impact of, but also the confidence factor around that 0.25% decrease in the base rate, and what we're likely to see, not guaranteed, of course, and you never say never, but potentially another 0.25% off later this autumn. But also, it's more of to use the ground as seems more solid in terms of people's as if the worst is behind us. And but at the same time, I mean, as you said, and I've made this observation on a number of interest rate levels are pretty much where they were in 2006, 2007, and we had quite a property boom then, and no one thought that borrowing rates around 5% were a problem.
No.
But obviously we've come from a very, very low borrowing rate environment from 2009 to 2021, whatever it was, to where we are now. So, and the repercussions have hit a lot of people confidence-wise quite hard.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you say, that's meant selling houses has been a bit tough, hasn't it, in the last year or two? Yeah.
And I think it's for people to understand that this is like where we're going to just go back to is a normal place, actually.
Yes.
And where we were for the last sort of 15 years was abnormal.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to go back to the abnormality.
No.
As we were saying, it's probably not the end quite yet, but it's, as they say, it's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of that cycle, and the end of that cycle then goes the opposite direction.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting to hear, Kevin. So, how long do you expect to be on site here? Obviously, the sales market's the sales market.
Yeah.
But are you planning? Are you already in the next stage project?
So we're planning to be here. We've got about another 6 weeks here, 6 to 8 weeks. So we're 90%, 95% finished inside all of the houses. Guys are just going around doing the snagging really at the moment. Landscaping is going on at the moment. So 6-8 weeks we'll be driving out the gate and leaving it to the estate agents. In terms of sales, so we haven't opened officially the show home yet. We expect to open, we are going to open it on I think September the 7th, if that's a Saturday. So we're opening it on that date for the show home. We think we've got one reservation on this site already.
Good.
And we expect to, once we open, I think we're reasonably confident that they will start to move. We've got another site around the corner, Paslow Common Farm, which is 20 minutes from here. Another 9 houses.
Right.
We've sold 3 of those, and again we haven't opened the show home yet. Right. Slightly different area, but we expect that one to sell out reasonably swiftly as well, and we're going to finish at around the same sort of time.
Okay, so you've been doing this project and
both at the same time. So been building. I was building up to 24 houses at once, so 3 sites at once. So we had 9 here, 9 round the corner, and another 6 in St Albans.
All right.
So the ones in St Albans are finished now as well. They're on the market. We've sold 1. I think we've got offers on another 1, and we're just looking to move 4 more of them.
So you really have been a busy bunny. You've most certainly scaled up from where we were 8 years ago when we met at the St Albans project. I was
going to say I perhaps wasn't grey then, but I probably was actually. But I would say I'm definitely greyer now. 3 houses, 3 developments is a challenge.
Yes.
There's a lot to learn.
Yes.
It's been I wouldn't say a baptism of fire, but I love learning. I love learning about development. Really enjoy it. I've been reading everything, and also just working with experienced people and just being a sponge. So obviously, none of us know everything. No,
absolutely.
I've learned so much from different consultants we've worked with, the architects, from site managers we're working with, and it's really good just to work with an open eyes and open ears, or two ears, one mouth, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've learnt a lot, and it's been a really enjoyable process. I've definitely grown a lot through that process, and I think things have been going really well. And I think so. You were asking what's next.
Yes. So once these 3 projects are, so the third one's done and dusted, and you've got 2 currently at different stages, but all to be all effectively to be sold. But beyond that, are you still going to within the 9 and below?
I think
schemes?
that's a good place for us. It's a good place for us because it's affordable for us as an organisation to achieve.
Yes.
It's generally below the area that the bigger house builders want to go to. It's also an area where we can influence the development more. The bigger it gets, it becomes more formulaic. They're just building houses upon houses. The smaller the development, we can be a bit more bespoke. And I've been very inspired, actually, and I would give a shout out to Paul Higgs. So, Paul was someone who started this process for me with development. He's been very generous in his teaching. And his big influence on the SME house building community.
Yes.
And very much about the way he's trying to inspire good house building. And I really like that. I'm really picking up on that sound. And we want to do more of that. We want to bring more beautiful homes to market. So there's been a lot to learn about how to develop. And I think we've really got that now. And without blowing too much, giving ourselves too much credit, but I think we've learned a lot, and we really know how to develop now. We've got some really good processes in place, a really good understanding, and a really good team to know how to develop. And now the real question is what to develop, right? So what do we want to bring to market? And it's not just about building another house. It's kind of it's more scientific now. There's two aspects to it. What's going to be beautiful and what's going to function really well. And that's what I want to give my career to going forward. So what's going to look really good. We have the opportunity to produce some really beautiful buildings, but also what's going to function really well. So it's quite sort of scientific now because building regulations are moving on a lot. Energy efficiency needs to be really built into the homes. It's not something you can just bolt on afterwards. It's not a case of just putting some solar panels on the roof and you've ticked that box. You have to put ventilation into the buildings now. You've got all sorts of overheating you need to contend with. Extra insulation into the fabric of the building. How do we make buildings more sustainable, but not only sustainable, but also live so much better, So really make people connect with it's just people's lives. So how do we make people enjoy the space more? And some of this stuff's quite subtle.
Yes.
How do we make them enjoy their homes more? And how do we just kind of put more homes, better, more beautiful homes into the environment?
Well, we spend an awful lot of time in them, particularly these days, with hybrid working, etc., for many people. And so, to make them as comfortable.
So we're really keen to work with better architects. So we were talking earlier, development's tough, right? So it looks great on, people see me on Facebook and it looks fantastic and it looks really easy. It's not easy, that's for sure. And part of the challenge quite often is, you build a development, you put your heart and soul into it. You only get paid on the last house, really. And so, your investors get paid, obviously, the bank gets paid. And right at the end, once the last one goes in, you get your money. So it's a bit of feast or famine. But we have a lot of skills and a lot of value to give to the industry. So we're looking to build individual bespoke homes. So we're building bespoke homes for clients, and we're looking at some really fantastic projects at the moment. There's one in Hertfordshire we're currently looking at, probably going to be bringing to starting the development hopefully in the next sort of few months, and it's a real stunning house and really something we really want to be involved in, a real grand design. So we want to complement what we do on the house building with doing individual homes, and that they really complement each other, because for us obviously it provides cash flow. So that's obviously needed. The developments will bring profit, the individual homes bring cash flow. but also the how we build our developments. We need to bring a lot of processes in place. It's different from building. You know, it's you have to have a lot of processes, and you have to have the contacts. You have to have the team, and it's not just about getting a subcontractor, as we were talking earlier. It's about bringing in the right trade partner. So we bring our team together, and that will really complement bringing these individual bespoke homes to market as well. So it's an area that we're moving into, and we've been working in already, and we're really excited about doing this kind of work too. And a lot of smaller developers do this as well. So they'll do developments, and they'll have bespoke arms that they bring to market as well. We've looked at quite a lot of developers, and it's a really good model. And we think that for us, it's something we can really enjoy, because you bring more beauty.
In terms of the staffing on site and on the other site that you're currently concluding, are some of them full time with Mosaic or?
Yeah, so we have a mix. So like there's the trade partners are generally like they do the larger amounts of work, and then we have like our admin staff that are behind the scenes that don't work on site managers who do work directly for us, and then we'll have a small team of like multi-trade people who will go around doing some of the snagging, some of the smaller items. They're kind of the bits that kind of fall between different trades, and you can either spend 6 weeks arguing about it contractually, or you can just put something and get it done. So we try and kind of keep things running smoothly like that.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much for your time today here at Stapleford Abbots. Woodside Farm?
Woodside View.
Woodside View.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look forward to seeing the finished imagery. Fascinating talking to you today and reflecting on what your journey in the last 8 years since you won the Property Dealer of the Year award, and look forward to keeping in touch with you in the months and years to come.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. It's great to see you. We also won Deal of the Year in 2019 and Development of the Year in 2019.
Right. Forgive me.
So well, we're old hands at the Property Investors Awards. So yeah, been very fortunate.
Yes.
It's been a great journey. Appreciate the support. It's great to see you here.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's a great industry to work in. We're always keen to help and share advice with anyone. So often people reach out to us. So
yeah, well, you've certainly done that today in terms of the information that you've given out openly and transparently. And I know this from previous discussions with you, Kevin. So thank you very much. So brilliant. Richard Bowser, Property Investor News, here with Kevin Edge from the Mosaic Group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this latest PINCast from Property Investor News. Make sure you've subscribed to be notified when the next episode is released. Register for the PIN e-news service at www.property-investor-news.com, where you can also sign up as a magazine subscriber and get the monthly print magazine. By subscribing to the magazine, you can get access to 17,000 articles which we've published in the last 20 years, alongside some 300 webinars and video interviews.